Welcome back. Last time, we used structured data to turn a Claude response into something your application can predict, parse, and reuse. That matters because real products do not just need smart text, they need outputs that fit a workflow. Today we keep that same builder mindset, but shift the question from shape to reliability. If this Building with the Claude API series is helping, like and subscribe so the next module is easy to find when you come back. Keep the through line simple. Structured data made one answer dependable for code, while evaluation asks whether the prompt keeps behaving when the input changes. That is the bridge into this module. In Building with the Claude API, evaluation is not a side quest. It is how developers decide whether a prompt is ready for an application that sees many user inputs. This module gives you a lightweight workflow for Anthropic models through the Claude API. Draft a prompt, build data, call Claude, score the results, then repeat. Treat it as prerequisite practice for the Claude Certified Architect exam, because later architecture choices depend on knowing how behavior is measured. For a developer, this is the difference between a successful experiment and a component you can trust in an application. The API call matters, but the measured behavior matters more. First, separate two ideas that often get mixed together. Prompt engineering is the toolkit for writing and editing the prompt. Multi-shot examples, XML tags, clearer instructions, and other techniques that help Claude understand the task. Prompt evaluation asks a different question. It runs the prompt through automated tests and produces an objective metric. That metric can check expected answers, compare prompt versions, and reveal errors your first manual test did not catch. Use the two columns as separate tools. One column improves the instruction, the other checks whether that improvement actually changed outcomes across examples. Once you write a prompt, three paths appear. Option 1 is testing once or twice and deciding it is good enough. Option 2 is testing a few custom inputs and tweaking around a corner case. Both feel natural, and both are traps, because users will bring inputs you did not imagine. Option 3 takes more setup. Run an evaluation pipeline, get an objective score, compare prompt versions, and iterate with evidence instead of vibes. The trap is emotional confidence after a few friendly examples. The evaluation first path deliberately adds friction, so later product behavior has evidence behind it. There are many ways to assemble eval workflows, and there are open source and paid tools that can help. Here we start small so you can see the mechanics. In a Jupyter notebook, the workflow has 5 steps. Draft a prompt, create an eval dataset, feed each case through Claude, feed each answer through a grader, then change the prompt and repeat. The point is not heavyweight infrastructure. The point is understanding the loop. The loop is intentionally small enough to build by hand. Once you understand the moving parts, you can decide whether to keep it lightweight or adopt a larger eval tool. Step 1 is intentionally plain. The prompt says, "Please answer the user's question," then inserts a question value. That first prompt gives us a starting point, not proof that the prompt is good. Step 2 creates the eval dataset. In this tiny example, the dataset has 3 questions, a math question, an oatmeal question, and a moon distance question. In a real application, the same idea can scale from 3 rows to hundreds or thousands. The tiny 3-question dataset is not meant to be impressive. It is meant to make the mechanics visible before the same pattern expands to realistic domain rows. Now each dataset row gets merged into the prompt template. The math row becomes, "Please answer the user's question, what is 2 plus 2? Claude might answer, 2 plus 2 equals 4. The oatmeal row might produce cooking instructions, and the moon row might produce a distance answer. The request boundary means the concrete prompt your code sends to Claude, plus the response your code receives, for one dataset case at a time. Think of this as a row-by-row factory. Every row creates a complete prompt. Every complete prompt creates an answer, and every answer becomes material for scoring. The grader looks at two things together: the original question and Claude's answer. That matters because a beautiful answer can still be wrong for the task. In the example, the math answer gets 10, the oatmeal answer gets 4, and the moon answer gets 9. Averaging those scores gives the prompt a single measured signal. The number is not magic. It is just a consistent way to compare versions. A grader is useful only when it sees enough context to judge. That is why the question and answer travel together into the scoring step. The first scoring example averages to 7.66, and the improved prompt later adds the instruction, answer the question with ample detail, so the score can show whether that extra guidance helped. The same scoring workflow is still being built in a Jupyter notebook, so you can inspect the rows, scores, and prompt edit cell by cell. Once the first run gives you a score, you can change the prompt and run the same dataset again. The example adds, answer the question with ample detail. Now the average might move from 7.66 to 8.7. The important part is not the exact wording of the added instruction. The important part is that the dataset and grader stayed stable, so the improvement can be compared numerically. This is where evals earn their keep. You can still use judgment, but the comparison is anchored to the same data and the same scoring rules. Now we make the dataset more realistic. The prompt needs to help users produce three kinds of AWS-focused output: Python code, JSON configuration, and regular expressions. Each test case should ask for one practical task, and the eventual answer should be code or configuration without extra explanation. That constraint is important. If the product wants a clean artifact, the eval data should exercise that exact kind of artifact. Good eval rows should resemble the work your prompt is supposed to do. Here, the work is not trivia. It is AWS-specific technical output. Before generating rows, the notebook defines small helpers. The messages list is the ordered set of role and content objects sent to Claude. One helper appends a user message, another appends an assistant message, and the chat helper calls client.messages.create. The request includes the current model, max tokens, an optional system instruction, the messages list, and optional stop sequences. Then it returns response.content item 0.text. These helpers also keep the API boundary consistent. When message formatting, model selection, max tokens, and response extraction sit in one place, later eval code stays easier to inspect. In the code path, JSON.loads converts Claude return JSON text into Python objects, and the generated rows stay focused on coding tasks rather than generic questions. The generate dataset function asks Claude for a JSON array of task objects. The instruction says each task should ask for one AWS-focused output, choosing among Python code, JSON configuration, or a regular expression. It also asks for practical, specific tasks. That keeps the eval from becoming random. We want rows that resemble the kinds of requests the final prompt is supposed to handle. The generation prompt is doing product design in miniature. It defines the kinds of tasks the eval will treat as representative of the real use case. The notebook also shows a practical formatting trick. It can pre-fill the assistant side with a JSON fence, then stop when the closing fence appears. The return text is parsed with JSON.loads. This is the same discipline from structured data. Make the model output easy for code to consume. The additional instruction is not decoration. It narrows the output so dataset rows become usable objects. Parsability is not a cosmetic concern. If the dataset generator returns messy prose, the eval runner has to fight the data before it can test the prompt. When we run dataset equals generate dataset, the output should look like a list of task objects. One task might ask for a Python function that extracts the AWS account ID from an Amazon resource name. Another might ask for a JSON configuration for an AWS Lambda function. Another might ask for a regular expression for an AWS S3 bucket name. These are now eval inputs, ready to feed into the prompt. Inspecting examples is still valuable. You are checking whether the generated tasks match the promised domain before saving them as the eval input. After inspecting the generated rows, we save them. The notebook opens dataset.json for writing and calls json.dump with the dataset. That creates a small artifact the next stage can load instead of regenerating data every time. The downloadable notebook 001 prompt evals.ipimp is the working place for these cells. The important handoff is simple. Generated task rows become dataset.json. Saving the file gives the workflow repeatability. Prompt changes can reuse the same dataset, which makes later score comparisons more meaningful. Now the dataset is ready, so we build the core evaluation pipeline. It has 3 functions. Run prompt takes one test case and sends the merged prompt to Claude. Run test case calls run prompt, then grades the answer. Run eval loops through the dataset and collects results. The grader is still simplified for now, but the skeleton matters because it shows where model-based grading will plug in next. Notice the responsibility split. Each function has one job, so the notebook can grow from a teaching example into a more serious eval runner. Run prompt is the smallest useful unit. It accepts one test case, pulls out the task, creates a messages list, adds the prompt with that task inserted, calls chat, and returns the output. This function is where the prompt actually meets one eval row. If this boundary is wrong, every later score is built on a bad request, so the notebook keeps it small and inspectable. Keeping this function narrow helps debugging. If an output looks strange, you can inspect exactly how one task became one Claude request. Run test case orchestrates one row. It calls run prompt, then creates a result object with the original test case, the output, and a score. Right now the score is hard-coded to 10, which is intentionally incomplete. We are building the plumbing first. The next section will replace that placeholder with a model-based grader that can judge whether the answer actually satisfies the task. The placeholder score is useful because it marks the slot. The shape of the result object is ready before the grading logic becomes sophisticated. The surrounding eval loop will use results that append to keep each single case dictionary in the final results list. Run eval is the coordinator. It starts an empty results list, loops through each test case in the dataset, calls run test case, appends the result, and returns the list. This is the moment the eval becomes repeatable. Instead of manually trying one task, the notebook can process every generated row through the same prompt and the same result shape. This loop is the moment manual testing becomes a repeatable process. The same path touches every task row, which is what makes aggregate scoring possible. The runner opens dataset.json, uses json.load to parse it, and then passes the loaded dataset into run_eval. To execute the eval, we reopen dataset.json, call json.load, and pass the dataset into run eval. This cell can take a little while because each row may call Claude. Even in a small notebook, that is the real shape of an eval. Load stable inputs, run the same pipeline, wait for the model calls, and keep the returned results for inspection. Loading from disk also prevents accidental moving targets. If the dataset changed every run, prompt version comparisons would become harder to trust. After the run finishes, the notebook prints json.dumps of the results. Each object keeps the test case, the output, and the score together. For an IAM username task, the output might include values like john.doe, Jane-Smith, user123, admin at company, user equals name, al, and x. The exact answer matters less than the structure. Every row now has evidence you can grade. Structured results are the payoff of the runner. They give you something to sort, average, inspect, and eventually compare between prompt versions. At this point, the core evaluation runner exists. It can load a dataset, process each task through Claude, collect output, and print structured results. The big missing piece is grading. A hard-coded score of 10 proves the plumbing, but does not tell you whether the answer was correct. That is why this module ends here. The next section replaces the placeholder with a grader that can evaluate the answer itself. That limitation is a feature of the lesson design. The runner is complete enough to execute, and incomplete enough to make the next concept necessary. Here is the whole loop in one view. Prompt evaluation gives you a measurable reason to improve a prompt. The eval workflow explains the sequence: draft, dataset, Claude, grader, repeat. Dataset generation creates representative tasks for the prompt to answer. Running the eval turns those tasks into structured results. Once grading is real, the loop can compare prompt versions with an objective score instead of relying on a handful of manual impressions. The mental model is now stable. A prompt version meets a fixed dataset, produces outputs, receives scores, and then competes against the next prompt version. Next, we replace score equals 10. Model-based grading uses a model as the grader, with a prompt that sees the task, the output, and the scoring rules. That is the missing bridge between a runner that merely collects answers and an eval that can guide prompt changes. Keep the dataset and runner in mind. In the next section, model-based grading turns those results into useful judgments. So carry forward the dataset, the runner, and the result object. The next section changes the scoring step from a placeholder into an actual model judgment.